Now it's time to bring in some of those branding elements and see how they're going to mesh with the design as we have it so far. I'm going to go right back to Bridge. This time, we should find those files in the exact same folder we left them, which was in the Base Assets folder. There are the two Illustrator files that we had created in the last lesson. If you haven't completed the previous lessons, you'll find these files in the Lesson Start File folder, which is in the Workflow Project Files folder on your desktop. These files will be in the Lesson 3 folder. Now remember, these are both vector files. They're both Illustrator. I'm going to take the Flames one for starters, and I'm just going to open it up into Photoshop. I'll do that by dragging it out of Bridge and just dropping it onto any area in the background of the Photoshop application. Now you can see it's going to import this one, but I can see by the page options over here on the side that it's going to rasterize this vector file. Now as it turns out, we're going to be wanting to do some bitmap type effects on this flame as it comes in, so I really do want to convert it into a bitmap. But I also want to point this out so that we're aware of what formats we're using in our design as well as what we have available to us. Obviously, we're going to be keeping this Illustrator file in our reference assets for use later, and we can use it as a vector on some other occasions, or we can pull it in as a bitmap like we're doing now. Now I'm going to keep the settings that they have. We're using a resolution of 72 pixels per inch, mainly because our layout is destined for the web and a screen presentation. Obviously, if we were going to be doing something with print, we'll be bringing this in again at a higher resolution. Now let's just click OK, and we should have opened up a rasterized version of the flame elements that were created before. What's even better is we've got quite a few elements in this pixelized version of our flame pieces, and I really only want parts of it. So I'm going to use the marquee tool inside of here to designate the big orange flame for starters. I'm going to grab all of those pieces, and I'll hold down Control so I can access the Move tool really quickly. I'm just going to drag that from one of my files into the other so that we bring it right into our color layout. You can see that it's already dropped itself into its own layer, and we can continue on with the Move tool. I'll hold Control key down again to dock that element right up in the upper left corner of our layout. Now I mentioned I wanted to do some pixel things with this. You can see how that nicely covers up the blank area of our edge button here, and we're kind of getting a little blend into the main button without completely obscuring the picture of the car that we had placed there earlier. I'm going to enhance this blending by choosing the Eraser tool, and let's set up some options to give us a really big eraser brush that has a very soft edge. I'll just go up to the brush options at the top, quickly modify this brush to a much larger diameter, let's say something around 100 pixels, and we'll take the hardness value and I'll push it all the way down to the end. So we've got a very, very soft, very large brush. In fact, now that I see the size of that brush, let's go up quite a bit bigger. I want to go up to something, let's say maybe 300 this time. Now we're talking. I don't really want to erase large portions of this flame. I just want to be able to use it to blend it into the background elements. With that brush selected, I'll also want to switch my display into a full screen mode. I can do that over in the tool palette here using the middle button. And what that'll do is it'll let me paint in the outside areas so I can see what's beyond the confines of the window area, because we're going to be using the softest edge of the brush, the very top there, to be able to just do a few clicks and blend that on in. I'll do that on the bottom and the top. Now on the bottom, one thing's very important, and that is that the flame doesn't go all the way to the lower edge of our document here. Let me switch over to a different icon so I can point at that area I'm talking about. Remember, we're designing a mock-up of a web page, but in reality, our web pages may have a little bit more content on them and may stretch down a little bit and increase in height. It'll be much better if we don't have to worry about cutting off the edge of this flame on a larger document, or worse, repeating the flame once again. It'll look a little bit disconnected and not a very natural portion of the design. Let me go back to my erase tool just one more time. We'll do a little touch up here on the top. Maybe that was a little too much. I'll pull right out, get just a little bit blending there. That looks pretty good. And we'll bring in our yellow flame and do the same thing. I'm going to switch back out of full screen mode just so I can easily access our other document back here in the background. We'll go back and grab our marquee tool out of the tool palette and select just the yellow flame element this time. Holding down the Control key or the Command key on the Macintosh, I will drag that right into our layout. While I still have the Move tool, I'll also dock it right up here in that upper corner. Let's do a little tiny bit of blending on that. That'll just make these flames a lot more dynamic and mixing in with the backgrounds. Now, in this case, I have layer 2 selected, which is my second flame. I'm just going to blend that bottom edge a little bit. We'll do the same thing at the top with a little blending. And there you can see those flames are really enhancing, and they're working really well with the colors that we've already got selected for our button elements. Let me switch out of that erase tool. Now you can see how rasterizing those vectors worked really well for us. We wouldn't have been able to accomplish those organic blends that we did if we'd brought these in as vectors and retained all that information. Now just so we don't get things out of hand, I'm going to go right away and name those two layers. Once again, double-clicking on the text of the name of the layer, and I'm just going to name that Flame 1 and Flame 2 so I can find them later. Double-click on the name of the layer 2, call that Flame 2.